Here we have gathered, called to celebrate days of our lifetime, matters small and great. We of all ages, women, children, men, infants and sages, sharing what we can. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Life has its battles, sorrows and regret, but in the shadows let us not forget. We who now gather know each other's pain. Kindness can heal us as we give, we gain. Sing now in friendship this our heart's own song.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or, as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Welcome, everyone. I want to begin, as always, by welcoming all that you bring with you to this space, all of your uniqueness, your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, your differences. Let's see, who's the most different here today? No. I won't point fingers. But all that helps make you who you are. And of course, this includes those of you who hear me say this each Sunday, as well as those who might be here more recently or for the first time, or great to have Dario Ray with, who's going to perform for us today. It's always good to have you with us, so you're always embraced just as equally as everybody else. And of course, this includes those of you who are streaming with us. Great to have all of you with us as well. So thanks to everyone for being here. And I don't have any announcements today, so you can just go ahead and take a couple of extra minutes to greet one another at this time. thank you. And there'll be more opportunity, as always, to visit with one another during our social time. But let's move forward now by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
Hospitality is not to change people, but to offer them space where change can take place. It is not to bring men and women over to our side, but to offer freedom, not disturbed by dividing lines. It is not to lead our neighbor into a corner where there are no alternatives left, but to open a wide spectrum of options for choice and commitment. It is not an educated intimidation with good books and good works, but the liberation of fearful hearts so that words can find roots and bear ample fruit. J.M. Newland.
Our first in-service hymn this morning is number 145, As Tranquil Streams. Please rise as you're willing and able.
As tranquil streams that meet and merge and flow as one to seek the sea, our kindred hearts and minds unite to build a church that shall be free, free from the bonds that bind the mind to narrow thought and lifeless creed, free from a social call that fails to serve the cause of human need, a freedom that reveres the past but trusts the dawning future more, and bids the soul in search of truth adventure boldly and explore. Prophetic church, the future waits your liberating ministry. Go forward in the power of love, proclaim the truth that sets us free.
No words, huh?
No, the words were up. Yeah.
Oh, were they?
Yeah. Yeah. No, they just flipped it real quick so you couldn't see when you turned around. I think Todd's handling those lyrics. Are you? Man, you're doing everything back there. Jeez, you're a one-man band. You know, I mean, this guy's running a live, essentially a televised show, right? With 3 cameras. He's keeping the audio going for us as well as for them, and he's doing the slideshows for us. Thank you, Todd. Thank you. We do not want to take him for granted. So we're going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our hearts and minds this morning. And we'll begin with the candle, as we have been for some time now, for the people of Ukraine, as well as the rest of that part of the world who are being impacted by the violence and devastation there. And also a candle for church member Carol Canterbury, whose sister Ruth Ann Wortman passed away earlier this month. I just so happened to run into Carol and Dave yesterday at a bookstore, and she was feeling pretty sad about the loss of her sister. As you might imagine, they were pretty close. So if you know Carol and want to reach out to her and let her know you're thinking of her, I'm sure she'd appreciate it. Let's take a moment on behalf of others that you are thinking about, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud at this time if you'd like. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in the world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. And we now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which helps sustain this community and our mission to the larger world.
Stars on the tile, wood trim on the sill, eyes in the back of a chair in which you refuse to join me. It's like these holiday lights are glowing for the blind, typical of a fleeting home, a camp for the sleepless, a refuge for the sane, like a dog who only goes your way. To maintain composure in the wake of a war is to swallow the echo of a scream, like the landscape of a holy moon, landscape of a holy moon, like the landscape of a holy moon, landscape of a holy moon.
Time for story for all ages. I don't see any kids. That's life. How are you? How are you doing today? Are you happy? Yeah, sure. I'm not, because of the heat wave. But though man is a fool, when it's hot he wants it cool. When it's cool he wants it hot. He always wants what he has not. And here's a story about unhappy crow. Once a crow was flying over a park and saw a swan swimming in the pond. Admiring the beauty of the swan, the crow said, "I wish I looked like this bird with white feathers all over me. My black feathers are so depressing." "When you're as beautiful as a swan, you must be very happy." The crow approached the pond to talk to the swan. Said the crow, "Look at me. I'm all black and ugly, and you're so white and beautiful. Are you happy about your appearance?" "You should see the parrot," said the swan. "This bird is more colorful than you or me." Next, the crow was looking for a parrot. He wanted to find out if the bird with more colors feels happy about the way it looks. The crow saw the parrot and said, "Indeed, you're much more beautiful than a swan, to say nothing about myself. You must be very happy about it." The parrot, however, shook its head and said, "Not at all. There is a most beautiful bird in the zoo. It is a multicolored peacock." Now it was time for the crow to find the peacock and have the answer to the question if its beauty makes the bird feel happy. And there, at the zoo, the crow watched the peacock slowly spreading a 4-foot-long tail with 175 colorful feathers. This incredible sight took the crow's breath away. Wow! With a beauty like this, the peacock must be the happiest bird in the world, said the crow. A little sparrow heard the crow's words and began chirping. Nope, nope, no, no, no. Because of its tail, the peacock cannot fly far. It is trapped and kept inside while we are free. Guess who is happy? By the way, look at the people around. You can tell not all of them are good looking. However, they're happy because they can enjoy the beauty of that peacock. On hearing this, the crow thought it was foolish of him to compare himself to the other birds. This bird came to realize he should be thankful to be the way he is, and really, it's not what we have or who we are that makes us happy. It's what we do. It's all about things that bring us joy and make us feel happy.
For the meditation this morning, the words of Brené Brown. Connection is the energy that is created between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment.
smoke, broken curfew. Is hurt and swollen. Even a breeze feels like a storm. When not a wing can fly for certain, and even a flame can't keep it warm. I hate your voice. Tell me to change my point of view. Tell me to lift my chin for you. Show me the end. Tell me to change. But if it be the last trail home, take a moment of repose. Ignore the signs and find Huckleberry Hill. You wonder why, just wait for the sky to clear.
Dario, thank you. Thanks again. Thanks so much. Appreciate you being here. This is a service I do periodically that is, I playfully call Conversations with Todd. I reminded the folks at the first service where that comes from. Does anybody know where Conversations of Todd comes from? Well, it was kind of a little joke back when I started doing this, even in Louisville. there was a popular, kind of conservative book series called Conversations with God. And so I thought it'd be fun to do Conversations with Todd. And now folks thinks it's an aspiration of mine, But anyway, the rules are pretty simple. It's your opportunity to ask me about something that maybe you've heard me say you wanted to know more about, or something I've not talked about at all. I do ask that we don't get into church business. We'll save those for church business meetings. Otherwise, it's all pretty much fair game. And also, I ask that you try to ask genuine questions and not make rhetorical statements if you can help it, so that there's plenty of time for me to respond. And then Amy, thank you so much, has a handheld microphone. So if you want to ask a question, please raise your hand, and she will bring it to you so you can be heard. Hold it up close to your mouth. We want to make sure our friends who are watching on our stream can have an opportunity as well.
I don't know whether this is an appropriate question. It's more an observation. The opening reflection in the first song seemed to me items that would probably be banished by the National these days. And then one quick anticipation of next Sunday. About 40 years ago, Bill Half gave a sermon titled, "Could Jesus Teach at Whitworth?" when they went conservative. I'm really looking forward to hearing that next week. Neither one of those are questions, sorry.
Okay, that was a rhetorical statement. But what am I talking about next week? I haven't even looked ahead yet. So, but I'm glad you're excited. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
I'm obsessed with parenting right now because I have a baby in there. And I guess I'm thinking a lot about raising a girl in this society and what's going on right now. And I love when we discuss similarities between people and how to come together despite our differences. And my family is on a way different page than me when it comes to, women's rights and what have you. And I feel very conflicted in how to communicate to my daughter, about her safety and health. And I guess I want to get along, but I wonder, if you're permissive by silence, it seems that getting along and taking a stand, there's a bit of a fine line when it comes to being a parent, because I find I've been able to be comfortable being rather passive and getting along, and I just wonder if you have ever reflected on the responsibility we have as parents, where it may be more uncomfortable, where you may have thought in the past, well, I'm going to let it go, and we'll agree to disagree. Do you have any suggestions on how to, set a positive example for a kid? I think there's a question in there.
Yeah. Well, one, I think just to me, the most important thing about how we treat our kids is we treat them with the respect for their humanity, right? So we want to encourage their autonomy, and I think a lot of parents make a mistake of thinking we need to instill our kids with the right ideas and the right habits so that they are just like us, then we'll know they're good people, right? And it often reduces their autonomy. I mean, all of us have experienced that in some ways. So, and at the same time, they have to be safe, right? So you can't just say, yeah, go run across the street, I hope you make it, right? You have to hold their hand. See, that's the rule. The rule is you hold my hand while you're too. So there's a constant balance. So I think just as individuals, we have to maintain that respect that these people have been brought into our care. But as Jahil Gibran says, our children are not our own. They belong to life, right? So we're their caretakers. We're responsible to help them unfold. There's something inside them that's going to become what it is they're meant to be, not what we want them to be. We don't prune them, right? So that's just a little, my own personal thoughts about parenting. But I think that your comments go largely to the societal issues that we're having, and as far as Roe v. Wade goes, the good news is that was not that decision was not supported by the majority of people in this country. Thank goodness. So no matter how divided we might be on a lot of issues, the question of reproductive freedom is something that a large majority of Americans agree on. So at least we know that we're living in that society. I think the thing that we're going to have to do as a society, rather than concentrate so much on how do we get people to dialogue and how do we get people to think like us, and sometimes we recognize that should not be the goal of our conversation. Our conversation should not be to get people to think like us, to dialogue so that they understand why we're right on choice, for example. But to be able to just talk with each other and have a meaningful relationship. That should really be the goal of our conversations. But I don't think that that is going to solve the social problems we have right now. The idea that we should talk to people who are not like us is not a good strategy, because there's hundreds of millions of people in this country, right? So that's a lot of conversations. And we might not have the outcomes we want from those conversations. So I just don't buy into it. I think, like Dr. King said, you can't make racism illegal. You can't change a person's heart. But stopping them from lynching me is pretty important too, right? You can make laws to stop people at least make lynching illegal. So I think we need a systemic solution. And what I've seen in my life, I'm 58 years old now, and I've watched this new reality emerge, and it really started, I think, in the 80s, where we stopped tolerating each other. We went from being a nation where people had differences to a nation of people who hated our differences. So as I said a couple weeks ago, we're not only a divided society, we're a divisive society. That as citizens, we have grown up in a environment where what we witness is the way you respond to people you disagree with is to not tolerate them, to dislike them, to hate them. And this is sadly spilled over to the far left as well as the far right. So, whereas you have, the Sean Hannitys of the world calling people who he disagrees with dangerous, you have, people on the far left, the Susan Frederick Grays, is the first time I've called her out, the president of the UUA, calling ideas that she disagrees with harmful. We're tolerating that kind of mindset being spread throughout our liberal religion, that ideas folks disagree with are harmful, and therefore those who express them should be dealt with harshly. This is going to require at least a generation to start to turn around again. We can't fix it ourselves. We have to make it happen for your children. And that, I believe, is going to happen best at K through 12 education. Again, education should not be about teaching our kids what to think, but how to think. And liberal education is based upon the values, the Renaissance values of reason and freedom and tolerance. And we used to teach that to our kids. We used to teach civics and how to be civil instead of divisive, right? We're only teaching our kids how to be divisive. People with different ideas, dangerous, harmful. That's not what I grew up learning. And I grew up in some tumultuous times, but we learned to get along with each other and befriend each other. Not to say that it was paradise, but it was much different. I would say it was better. So what we can do is start to try to force our public educators to recommit to teaching civics in school, for lack of a better term. The STEM, what is it? Science, technology, engineering, and math, right? I mean, those things are important, but what it basically says is our schools are now about turning people into employees. Right? Let's turn everybody who is born into an employee. We want to train them so they can get a good job, essentially. That's not what education should be about. Education should be about making good people, not good employees, by helping us unfold. By helping education is an extraction, right? It's not an injection of information. It's an extraction of all of our powers to think, and to be, and to behave, and to decide, and to reason. It's helping us find that ability to do that, and to recognize that I'm safe when around people who I disagree with. I'm safe when people disagree with me. Otherwise, we can't live together. We can't be our society can't survive because we're all too different. And if we're not teaching ourselves that lesson, we're going to just see the sort of conflict we're in now increase. So I think we have to systemically approach it, and through education. And it may be that public education is no longer the solution if we can't get them to do it. I look at the new university in Austin. I think it's called the University of Austin. Have some of you heard of this? This is a new university that some really prominent professors are going to because they're starting a school where they know that they can send their kids, they can pay for them to have an education in which they are not going to get only what they want to hear, where professors have to be afraid to teach. It is a heterodox university. And by the way, this stuff is even happening at Harvard and Yale. This orthodoxy. So people are paying, tens of thousands, or going into debt for tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes more than that, just to get the prestige of the education, when in fact their kids are terrorized. College students are terrorized to be on campus right now, afraid to be honest, afraid to question, afraid to ask the wrong questions. That's not the society we want. So we may have to get inventive. We may have to become creative and create schools that are committed to heterodoxy. I hope that helps. It's kind of all right. Well, yeah, Lila sent me an email. I was hoping you might be here to ask that question.
My question is about your letter that you sent to the congregation after GA.
Yeah, just hold it up just a little closer.
The letter you sent to the congregation after GA and the Gadfly papers.
Mm-hmm.
And in it you stated, and this is a quote, I am a prophetic personality, which I believe is largely why I was chosen to come to Spokane to be your minister. My question is, how do you define prophetic? and how do you see it affecting your ministry with us?
Well, I think prophetic. I would define it, just as the question you just asked. When do we keep quiet to go along, and when do we not keep quiet to go along? So, the prophet doesn't keep quiet just to go along, just for people to get along. That's a prophetic personality, and they often do things very, very, very boldly, very loudly, if that's what it's going to take to get attention. So, writing a book and giving it away, which you wouldn't really think would be too prophetic, ended up being very prophetic. Years ago, in 2004, when I was working in both a secular job and ministry, I made a public commitment that I would not perform weddings for anyone until I could perform them for everyone. That was bold enough that it was in the news. I got fired from my secular job, and that actually enabled me to turn that into even more awareness raising. When we did the gay marriage movement here in Spokane after I first came, when we were going to be the first state to actually vote on approving gay marriage by popular vote, right? All the other marriage laws had been approved by state legislatures, and then the referendums people voted on were to overturn them or not. We actually were allowing our citizens to vote, and of course we needed at least 40% here in Spokane, and we only had 25% support 6 months out, right? So it didn't look like it was going to win. But we took out a billboard campaign, and I personally got 16 different ministers or faith leaders from the community, from a wide variety. We started a billboard campaign called "People of Faith Support the Freedom to Marry," and all these people standing together on this billboard that people from this community knew, and we helped shift the sentiment in our community to where, when it was finally voted on, it was 45% countywide and 55% in the city itself. So these are sort of prophetic things to do, but primarily I think it is the prophetic personality is one that is not afraid to ruffle feathers, if that's what it's going to take. And so I do believe I came to this church as, because of my history of doing these sort of things. At least that was part of it. And certainly I ruffled some feathers, Now, it wasn't my intention with my book, The Gadfly Papers. It was an attempt to raise awareness about what was going on. I didn't realize that if you go to a liberal General Assembly of a couple thousand liberals, that if you handed out a book, within 4 hours you'd be banned, and the next day you'd be publicly condemned before anybody had read it. That was not something I anticipated. But it has obviously progressed, caused a split in our church that has not been fun for any of us. It's certainly not been fun for me. So, the rest of the question sort of answers itself, I mean, what does it mean for our church, right? You've seen some of the ups over the years, and now we're experiencing the downs. Although I personally am not as bothered by the downs. I'm sorry that not everybody agreed with what I did, and they felt a need to stir up a lot of dust and then run away. But nevertheless, that's the way it is, and this is where we're at now as a congregation. So I don't know if does that answer your question? Or was there something more specific you wanted me to?
The word prophetic is loaded for me.
Is it?
Yeah. So it was interesting to hear what you had to say about it.
Yeah, by prophetic I don't mean I can see the future. Obviously I cannot.
Yeah, that was... Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Okay.
I just thought I should turn the tables if there
Oh,
was.
no rhetorical questions now.
I'm sorry, say that
Oh,
again?
go ahead, go ahead.
I should turn the tables and say, if you had a chance to ask us a question, what would it be?
Oh, to ask the whole group a question? Oh, let me think about that for just a second. That's a good one, Owen. That's a good one. I don't know. I mean, I guess I guess the question would be, why are you here? Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. But I mean, I think it's a really good question to ask yourself, right? Because, I mean, now that, a handful of our members left to start another church, I'm scratching my head literally. I don't know why they were here. I don't understand people who would be upset. I don't know. I still don't know really what they were upset about, because it would never answer the question. But it seemed to have something to do with me writing a book that was not well received, and the response was not Unitarian. There was this an authoritarian maneuver to create an authoritarian response in our church. It took advantage of the COVID isolation, so we couldn't come together and talk, and just trying to bully their way through to basically force me out. And the things that were said and the things that were done, I mean, I tell you, they were just very personally hurtful. I'm still wounded and still suffering from that behavior. And that was not something I would have expected from Unitarian Universalists, let alone people that I have known for years, let alone people that I love. People that I love. People that I have or had a relationship with for years, and I consider friends, and I just couldn't understand it. So I've wondered if, for some people, they don't understand what Unitarian Universalism is. Maybe this was more of a social club, where people that have some progressive goals were coming. And then I think that is that my fault? Did I not talk about our history enough? Did I not talk about our values enough? Did I not teach who we are enough? Did I fail us in that regard? So I don't know, but this is a Unitarian Universalist church. It is not the everything bagel church. Okay, we are not the whatever you want to believe is not going to be challenged here. That's not our ethic. You can believe whatever you want, but to think that you're not going to hear somebody who disagrees with it is not what Unitarianism is, not what Universalism means. Universalism doesn't mean you'll never hear something you disagree with in this church because everything is welcome. That's not what it means. That's not what tolerance is. This is a Unitarian Universalist church. It's a liberal religion. And I think, the people that are here are true liberals. I think. But I would ask myself that, why am I here? Am I committed to reason, freedom, and tolerance under the umbrella of the common humanity ethic, right? That we're all human beings and we should all have the opportunity to fully unfold and to have our basic needs met in order to be a successful society. Is that my ethic? Is that what the bottom line is for me? Because that's what the bottom line of Unitarian Universalism is, as I understand it. So that would be my question. Why are you here? You don't have to answer. We'll do Doug and then Sue. How's that? Maybe we have enough time. I'll try not to be so long-winded.
So I'm a newcomer to the UU, and I'm learning about why I'm here, and I'm fond of sound bites like I'm spiritual instead of religious, and I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And I realize those ideas raise more questions than they answer because, they just begin the conversation. But what do you think about those things?
Yeah, those are really, really good sayings. I don't agree with them. But I like the sentiment behind them. Let me put it that way, because I get the sentiment. In fact, I think it was Teilhard de Chardin who said the latter one, if I remember right, about being not a human being having an occasional spiritual experience, but a spiritual being having an occasional human experience. So I think that the spiritual but not religious. I consider myself religious but not spiritual. Now, some people would say, "Oh, I've been saying he's not spiritual all along," but it's not that. Of course, I have a spirit. A spirit. See, a spirit. The spear. To be speared is to be spiritual, right? To let something penetrate you in a way that it impacts you in a big way is what it is to be inspirited. And spirits come and go out of our lives all the time. We welcome spirits in, and then we outgrow them, and we find another spirit. Sometimes we have bad spirits. Sometimes we're addicted to spirits. But being spiritual is a sort of, a spirit is a disembodied thing, right? It is something that is not something we can grasp, that is tangible. And it literally means disembodied, right? That's what spiritual is, disembodied. And when I've tried to nail people down on what they mean by spiritual, everybody's different. Well, what do you mean I'm not spiritual? And if I say, geez, Doug is a very spiritual person. Well, what does that say about Owen, who's sitting in front of you? He's not a spiritual person. Well, what's the difference? So it almost becomes like a God question. It's a big question. What is the Spirit? And it becomes, it's like trying to define God. The more we define God, the worse it gets for us. Better just to let it be, right? So that's kind of, the other thing about spiritual but not religious is when you look at these religious identity surveys, they have found that a growing number of people consider themselves spiritual but not religious. Okay? What's interesting about them is they also identify as Christians. Spiritual but not religious, but they identify as Christians who don't go to church. Largely because they're fed up with the politics. Okay? But spiritual but not religious translates into Christian but not church-going. Okay, so that's another issue with it. The bigger issue for me, and this is where the human experience, spiritual experience kind of I disagree with. I'm a humanist, right? And I'm a creation spiritualist. Now, creation spirituality rejects the notion of original sin and says that this world is good. That's the first law of the Hebrew Scriptures. It is good. It's good. God created all that He'd seen, and on the seventh day relished in it. And sat there and said, it's good. And it's the idea that human beings are made in the likeness of God, and that human beings are made out of mud, the Mother Earth. So, we don't know a lot about the universe, obviously. We know almost nothing about the universe compared to its scope. But what we do know of it is that we've not detected life or any signs of life anywhere else. And here is this amazing thing, right? That in 14 billion years, this thing started to unfold. And it was a hydrogen universe, a very simple universe, one element. And it created these huge hydrogen clouds, and they became so heavy they started to collapse in on themselves, and they fused two hydrogen atoms together, and they formed helium. Now we were a dualistic universe, a yin and a yang universe. But this process kept happening over the eons. And it kept becoming more and more complicated, more complex as different elements were formed. Now we have, I don't know, somebody, the chemist can tell me here, 100, less than 200, but a lot more elements have been made. At some point, those formed rocky planets. There were enough elements to form rocky planets, right? There were gas giants long before there were rocky planets, but those rocky planets, like Earth, the Goldilocks planet, apparently, maybe it's the only one we know of, it had enough elements to form chemicals, and that chemistry interacted, and something happened. A single cell came to life, and it divided, and we formed. For the first billion years, it was a dead planet. Then for a billion years, all it was were these single-cell organisms that, by the way, almost caused global warming, and they were excreting so much oxygen that the world was dangerously close to blowing up. It was the first mass extinction. And some of them discovered how to eat the oxygen and create carbon, which is what we're now fighting. And that saved the Earth, right? So a billion years of that, and then some of these little cells start to cloister together and form little communities that then form the first globular life forms. And then they started to differentiate. Those cells, they became complex. First they were simple, then complex, and they formed these. Then they started to become harder and form bones. And then they started to specialize and become these communities of different kinds of beings, and those beings are becoming superorganisms, right? Like the individuals made up of these cells are now organisms within a larger organism. We could say we're the superorganism of humanity because humanity's all over the planet, right? We're the first species to really do that, except for maybe grass. So this is really, the whole universe has been trying to get here. As far as we know, this is it. This is the apex of everything. And that we can think about that. That life has gotten to the point where it can look up into the stars at its own origins and wonder about itself. I want to be a human being having a human experience. And I want us to understand the beauty of humanity and the rareness of it, so that we don't have to be afraid, that we can be in awe and wonder all of the time. And we can be at awe and wonder with each other. Right? Why does somebody who is a result of this amazing process vote for someone like Donald Trump? I'm filled with awe and wonder. But truly, the point is we can't eat as much as we disagree. We've got to recognize the beauty in that person. That person's there for a reason. They're where they're at for a reason. It may be a logical reason that I can't see, or it may be a completely illogical reason that's born of their experience as a human being, of their fears, of their anxieties, of them having a parent who said, we're going to instill in you, or being a part of an education system that said, we're going to insert knowledge into you. We don't know why we are the way we are, but boy, it's amazing. So I don't want to. I prefer to spiritual mystery, because the mystery is the unknown, right? When we start talking about transcendence, it's like we want to leave this. We want to leave. We're taking a fine point where we're at, and we're saying, let's go outward. But if you're a mystic, and you can live comfortably in the mist, right? Say, I don't know. And that feels good, that excites me. I get excited to encounter things I can't understand. I get excited to have my breath taken away. I get excited to live in a state of awe and wonder. Then we're moving into the earth, you see? Because it's like, did you know this is what stupid means? To be stupid. Literally, there's a verse in the Bible about the angels being curious about humanity. So much so that they stooped over the world to look at us. Right? Now, we're taught in our society that we should always be upright. This is what a human being is, an upright individual. Stand tall and proud. To prostrate ourselves is humiliating. And that's what stupid is. Stupid means to prostrate ourselves before this wonder and be awestruck by it, to let it humble us. So you can see why I appreciate it, but I prefer to say I'm a mystic. I'm a mystic because I'm comfortable living with the awe and wonder. I'm comfortable not knowing. And in fact, I seek it out. So I like to use mystic rather than spiritual. Yeah, yes, one more. Yes, one more.
I don't want to even say anything now. You've left me so much to think about. Really, I didn't want to leave your question unanswered. And Doug, is it? I think you really answered a very inspiring question to Todd and had good things to say. So, in short, I've been here since '96, and I was not a churchgoer and didn't need a church and still don't need a church. It's more the people that fill the place for me. And my minister now, I have to thank you, Todd, because you have been so open and real today. And I had me sitting on the edge of my seat to hear what you were going to say next. And I like these moments. They're not always there for me, but today you've touched me deeply. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. I'll leave it at that.
Well, from the universe down to the particular, today we're going to end with a song about summer and being out on the water. It used to be, I think it was Frank Sinatra had a hit with this song. It's called Cruising Down the River. So please rise as you're willing and able to sing it with me. Cruising down the river on a Sunday afternoon with ones you love, the sun above, waiting for the moon, the old accordion playing, a
For the benediction, words by the Dalai Lama on the true meaning of life. We are visitors on this planet. We are here for 90 or 100 years at the very most. During that period, we must try to do something good, something useful with our lives. If you contribute to other people's happiness, you will find the true goal, the true meaning of life. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.
Shalom.